On September 12, 2003, Johnny Cash passed away due to complications from diabetes, just 4 months after the love of his life, June Carter Cash, had left him. While the man in black was no more, his legacy, and a few intriguing mysteries, lived on. One of these mysteries reached back to the late 1950s, when Cash boldly spoke up for Native American rights. At a time when country music fans were enamored with tales of rugged cowboys, his advocacy for Indigenous struggles wasn't exactly embraced. Cash's passion for the cause stemmed from his long-held belief that he had Cherokee ancestry, a belief that shaped his identity and his art. Decades later, in a twist even Cash might have appreciated, his daughter Rosanne Cash appeared on the show Finding Your Roots to trace their family history. To her surprise, DNA testing revealed no Native American markers in their lineage. Instead, she discovered distant African ancestry, reframing the narrative of their heritage. While Cash may not have been Native American as he believed, his unwavering support for Indigenous rights spoke to something far deeper than bloodline. And in a small town in Mississippi, the spirit of the man in black still lingers, etched into the hearts of those who see him as a voice for justice, truth, and the overlooked. But not everyone is happy about him not being Native American. Many people say he had no right to speak for Native Americans. Join us as we look deeper into this debate and confusion. Born J.R. Cash on February 26, 1932, in Kingsland, Arkansas, Johnny Cash's life reflects a true American story. He was the fourth of 7 children in his family. His parents could not agree on a name, leading to the initials J.R., which changed when he enlisted in the Air Force, adopting the name John R. Cash. He later became known as Johnny Cash when he began his music career with Sun Records. In March 1935, when Johnny was 3, his family moved to Dyes, Arkansas. This settlement was part of a program to help families during the Great Depression, and despite the hardships, it influenced Johnny's future. By 5, he was working in the cotton fields, singing to lighten the tough days. A flood during his childhood inspired his song 5 Feet High and Rising. These experiences gave him a deep empathy for the less fortunate, which became a central theme in his music. In 1944, tragedy hit the family when Johnny's older brother Jack died in a work accident. This loss left Johnny with lasting grief and guilt, particularly because their mother had wanted Jack to skip work that day. Johnny later expressed a wish to reunite with Jack in heaven. Music became a source of comfort for Johnny, encouraged by his mother who taught him to play guitar. He started writing songs at age 12 and gained attention in high school with his high tenor voice. His love for gospel music was reflected in his later album, My Mother's Hymn Book. In 1950, at the start of the Korean War, Johnny joined the Air Force. He trained in Texas before being stationed in West Germany, where he claimed to be the first American to hear about Stalin's death. While there, he formed his first band, the Landsberg Barbarians, beginning his musical journey. Before his deployment, Johnny met Vivian Liberto, leading to a romance filled with love letters during his service. After returning from the military in 1954, he married Vivian in a Catholic ceremony, marking a new chapter in his life. Johnny Cash's early years combined struggle and achievement, laying the groundwork for his legacy as the Man in Black. In 1954, Johnny Cash and his first wife, Vivian, moved to Memphis, Tennessee, to pursue their dreams. During the day, Cash sold appliances and studied radio broadcasting, while at night, he teamed up with guitarist Luther Perkins and bassist Marshall Grant, known as the Tennessee Two, to create a unique sound that would define his music. However, Cash knew that selling appliances was not his true calling. He bravely entered Sun Records studio, hoping to secure a recording contract. At his audition, he played gospel songs, but producer Sam Phillips wanted something different, famously suggesting he return with a more marketable song. Cash returned with a mix of gospel and rockabilly, impressing Phillips. In 1955, Cash recorded his first tracks at Sun Records, Hey Porter and Cry, which quickly became popular on the country charts. The following year, he participated in a legendary jam session with Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins at Sun Records, known as the $1 Million Quartet, showcasing a blend of gospel and rock. As his success grew, Cash released several hits, including Folsom Prison Blues and I Walk the Line, rising to the top of the charts. He also released his first long-playing album, solidifying his status in country music. Despite his success, Cash faced frustrations with Sun Records, particularly with their limits on gospel music and low royalty rates. Feeling overshadowed as Phillips promoted Jerry Lee Lewis after Elvis left, Cash decided to leave Sun Records in 1958 for Columbia Records, where he gained more creative freedom and better financial terms. His first single with Columbia, Don't Take Your Guns to Town, became one of his biggest hits, and he also released a gospel album that fulfilled a dream. Cash's image began to form during this time as well. He adopted a style of wearing all black on stage, which led to the joking nickname The Undertaker. This would eventually evolve into his iconic identity as the Man in Black. Despite his rising fame, Cash battled a growing addiction to alcohol and drugs, exacerbated by his relentless touring and personal struggles. Living with Waylon Jennings in Nashville, his behavior was often misinterpreted as nervousness, masking the seriousness of his dependency. Amid this turmoil, Cash recorded his iconic hit Ring of Fire in 1963, a song co-written with June Carter, though his first wife, Vivian Liberto, later claimed financial motives influenced its credit. Through triumphs and struggles, Cash's journey in the 1960s marked him as an unstoppable force on his path to legendary status. By the mid-1960s, Cash's personal life and behavior were spiraling out of control. In June 1965, while on a fishing trip in Los Padres National Forest in California, a fire broke out near Cash's camper, engulfing over 500 acres of forest and destroying the habitat of several endangered California condors. Cash's nephew Damon Fielder believed the fire started when Cash, under the influence of drugs, set a fire to stay warm and failed to contain it. When questioned in court, Cash flippantly remarked, "I didn't do it, my truck did, and it's dead, so you can't question it." Unrepentant, he even dismissed the ecological damage, saying, "I don't care about your damn yellow buzzards." The federal government sued him, and Cash was ordered to pay $82,001 in damages. While Cash's outlaw image was growing, his actual brushes with the law were often less dramatic. He was arrested 7 times, though never for more than a single night. One of his more unusual arrests occurred in May 1965 when he trespassed onto private property in Starkville, Mississippi, to pick flowers. The incident inspired the humorous track Starkville City Jail, which he performed on his At San Quentin album. Later that year, in October, he was arrested in El Paso, Texas, for smuggling pills in his guitar case, 688 amphetamine capsules, and 475 tranquilizers. Because they were prescription drugs rather than illegal narcotics, he received a suspended sentence and a $1,500 fine. Even during these turbulent years, Cash pushed creative boundaries. His 1964 concept album Bitter Tears focused on the struggles of Native Americans, a subject that polarized fans and radio stations. The album's message was largely ignored at the time but was revisited decades later through a documentary and a tribute recording by contemporary artists. In 1965, Cash released Sings the Ballads of the True West, an experimental double album blending frontier songs with spoken word narration. While unconventional, these projects underscored his willingness to use music to address complex social and historical themes. In his personal life, Cash hit rock bottom. His marriage to Vivian ended after years of separation, culminating in divorce in 1967. That same year, his duet with June Carter, Jackson, earned a Grammy Award. However, his addiction issues led to canceled performances, and he was arrested again after a car accident in Georgia, where police discovered a bag of pills. The arresting sheriff, Ralph Jones, refused Cash's attempted bribe and gave him a stern lecture about wasting his potential. This encounter marked a turning point for Cash, who later returned to the town to perform a benefit concert that raised $75,000 for the local high school. Determined to turn his life around, Cash leaned on his growing bond with June Carter. With the support of June and her family, including matriarch Maybelle Carter, Cash began to fight his addictions. In 1968, after a period of sobriety, he proposed to June onstage during a concert in Ontario, Canada. They married a week later, with June agreeing only after he had started cleaning up his life. Faith played a pivotal role in Cash's recovery. He recommitted to Christianity, responding to an altar call at Evangel Temple in Nashville. However, his battle with addiction wasn't over. According to his former bassist Marshall Grant, Cash continued to struggle with amphetamines until the birth of his son, John Carter Cash, in 1970, which inspired him to stay drug-free for 7 years. Unfortunately, his fight with addiction resumed in the late 1970s. By 1983, Cash's dependency on amphetamines had returned, prompting him to seek treatment at the Betty Ford Clinic. He managed to stay sober for a few years but relapsed again, requiring further treatment at Nashville's Cumberland Heights Alcohol and Drug Treatment Center in 1989 and finally at the Loma Linda Behavioral Medicine Center in 1992. This last stint proved to be his most successful, though his journey was a lifelong struggle. Reflecting on his troubled past in a 1997 interview, Cash famously remarked, "I was taking the pills for a while, and then the pills started taking me." His honesty about his battles, paired with his redemptive journey, became an integral part of the legacy of the Man in Black. Johnny Cash's prison concerts became a defining feature of his career, cementing his status as a voice for the marginalized and forgotten. It all began in the late 1950s when he performed his first notable prison concert on January 1, 1958, at California's San Quentin State Prison. These concerts were raw, electric, and deeply resonant with both inmates and audiences beyond prison walls. The turning point came in 1968 with the release of Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison. This live album captured the spirit of rebellion and redemption, opening with his iconic Folsom Prison Blues. The recording was a critical and commercial triumph, topping the Billboard country album charts and solidifying Cash's image as the Man in Black who understood the struggles of the downtrodden. In 1969, Johnny Cash released At San Quentin, featuring the hit As a Boy Named Sue, which topped the country charts and became a pop sensation. The album outsold even the Beatles that year, with 6.5 million copies sold. While later live albums like Strawberry Cake and Live at Madison Square Garden had modest success, his prison performances, including those in Sweden's Österåker Prison and Tennessee State Prison, cemented his legacy of solidarity with the marginalized. Cash's activism extended to Native American rights, where he challenged country music norms by spotlighting their struggles. These efforts reflected his enduring empathy and commitment to amplifying unheard voices, defining him as both a musical legend and a champion for justice. In 1957, Cash dipped his toes into activism with the song Old Apache Squaw, but it wasn't until the 1960s that his passion for the cause truly ignited. Meeting folk artist Peter Lafarge, the son of renowned activist Oliver Lafarge, changed everything. Cash admired Peter's fearless storytelling and embraced his mission, giving a megaphone to Native struggles through his music. The result was Bitter Tears, Ballads of the American Indian, 1964, an album unlike anything in country music. Instead of feel-good honky-tonk tunes, Cash delivered raw, haunting stories of suffering and survival. He sang about the Pima, the Ballad of Ira Hayes, the Navajo, the Lakota, Bigfoot, and more. The album's centerpiece, The Ballad of Ira Hayes, told the tragic tale of a Native American Marine celebrated for raising the flag at Iwo Jima, only to die penniless and forgotten, a victim of systemic racism. Johnny Cash's career was defined by his defiance of convention and his unyielding commitment to social justice. In 1964, his album Bitter Tears tackled Native American struggles, but it was dismissed by Columbia Records as too radical, and radio stations refused to play The Ballad of Ira Hayes. Cash fought back with a full-page ad in Billboard, challenging the industry's silence. His persistence paid off when the song reached number 3 on the country charts. On The Johnny Cash Show, he continued to spotlight Native American history, earning adoption into the Seneca Nation's Turtle Clan in 1966. Cash backed his music with action, performing benefit concerts at the Rosebud Reservation and DQ University, and sharing the harrowing story of the Trail of Tears through recordings and public readings. In the late 1990s, Cash faced a devastating diagnosis of a neurodegenerative disease later linked to diabetes, but he refused to slow down. Teaming up with producer Rick Rubin, he released the American albums, showcasing his raw vulnerability and artistic brilliance. His cover of 9 Inch Nails' Hurt became a defining moment, with Trent Reznor admitting, "That song isn't mine anymore." The accompanying video, featuring scenes of Cash's life and legacy, became a cultural phenomenon, earning a Grammy. The loss of June Carter, his wife and greatest support, in 2003 devastated Cash, but he channeled his grief into recording 60 songs in 4 months. His final public performance in July 2003 included a moving tribute to June, declaring their love as eternal. Cash's last recordings, made in a wheelchair, included deeply reflective tracks like the 309 and Engine 143. On September 12, 2003, Cash passed away at 71, just 4 months after June's death. His funeral in Tennessee was a celebration of a life that reshaped music and gave a voice to the voiceless. Even in death, Cash's legacy endures as the Man in Black, an unflinching cultural icon who used his music to confront injustice and inspire generations. Johnny Cash's roots are as layered and complex as the man himself. While his paternal grandmother claimed Cherokee heritage, a 2021 DNA test on his daughter, Rosanne Cash, revealed a different story. Featured on Finding Your Roots with historian Henry Louis Gates Jr., the results showed Rosanne had no Native American markers. Instead, the researchers discovered she carries 3.3% sub-Saharan African DNA, traced back to enslaved African ancestors on both sides of her family. On her maternal side, this ancestry was linked to Sarah A. Shields, Rosanne's third great-grandmother, and Shields' mother, who was possibly of full African descent. On Johnny Cash's paternal side, an unknown African ancestor added another layer to the family's history. Cash's fascination with his heritage didn't stop there. After a meeting with Major Michael Crichton Stewart, the Laird of Falkland in Fife, Scotland, Cash dove into his Scots ancestry. He traced his surname back to 11th century Fife, where landmarks like Cash Lock still bear his family name. This deep dive even connected him to British Conservative politician Sir William Cash, revealing distant English roots as well. Johnny Cash's heritage was a tapestry of stories that echoed the diversity of America itself, complicated, unexpected, and filled with resilience. His legacy, much like his ancestry, defies simple categorization, continuing to inspire generations to explore the deeper truths of identity and history.